I'm back. Day 7. I've been consistent for 7 days. Pat on my back. Yes, it's like 12:11 a.m. right now. Can't go to sleep without reading. Gotta stay consistent. But a little recap of the reading that I read yesterday. Einstein is really helping Nora discover herself more, as we read yesterday, as I read yesterday. Nora, is it raining outside? Oh my gosh, it's raining outside. Let's go. Yes. Anyway, I went a little off topic there, but Einstein is helping Nora bring out her personality and really show her traits, because with her teaching Einstein, it's really, the way I see it, it's helping Nora more than it's helping Einstein. Even though it's really helping Einstein. Einstein is learning. It's really helping Nora, because it shows that Nora is a caring person. I mean, obviously, shows that Nora is a caring person, and she's tender and patient, which is good qualities that you would want in a woman, of course. And a mother, yeah, that you would want in a mother and a woman and a teacher. That's what you want. She's gentle and calm, which is it's not common. Not everyone is gentle and calm or patient with people, or I guess pets. But Nora is that kind of person, so that's perfect. So that's awesome. That's good for Travis. My prediction is Nora and Travis are gonna get married. All right, maybe I did my research a little bit, but that. Since with Einstein was having an enormously, slacks, colorful blouses, jeans, and t-shirts. She seemed to grow 10 years younger. She had her glorious dark hair redone at the beauty salon and did not brush out all the styling this time. She laughed more often and more engagingly. In conversation, she met Travis's eyes and seldom looked shyly away from him as she had done previously. She was quicker to touch him too, and put an arm around his waist. She liked to be hugged, and they kissed with ease now. Although their kissing remained, for the most part, that of uncertain teenagers in early stages of courting. On July 14, Nora received news that lifted her spirits even higher. The Santa Barbara District Attorney's Office called to tell her that it was not going to be necessary for her to appear in court to testify against Arthur Streck. In light of his previous criminal record, Streck had changed his mind about pursuing a plea of innocence and waging a defense against charges of attempted rape, assault, and breaking and entering. He had instructed his attorney to plea bargain with the DA. As a result, they dropped all charges except assault, and Streck accepted a prison sentence of 3 years, with the provision that he serve at least 2 years before being eligible for parole. Nora had dreaded the trial. Suddenly, she was free. And in celebration, she got slightly tipsy for the first time in her life. That same day, when Travis brought home a new stack of reading material, Einstein discovered there were Mickey Mouse picture books for children and comic books, and the dog was as jubilant about that discovery as Nora was about the resolution of the charges against Arthur Streck. His fascination with Mickey and Donald Duck and the rest of the Disney gang reminded of mystery, but it was undeniable. Einstein couldn't stop wagging his tail, and he slubbered all over Travis in gratitude. Everything would have been rosy if, in the middle of the night, Einstein had stopped going through the house from window to window, looking out at the darkness with obvious fear. 3. By Thursday morning, July 15, almost 6 weeks after the murders at Bordeaux Ridge, 2 months after the dog and the outsider had escaped from Banodyne. 6 weeks. Oh, yeah. Lemuel Johnson sat alone in his office on an upper floor of the federal building in Santa Ana, the county seat of Orange County. He stared out the window at the petulant-rich haze that was trapped under an inversion layer, blanketing the western half of the county and adding to the misery of 100-degree heat. The bow yellow day matched his sour mood. His duties were not limited to the search for the lab escapees, but that case constantly worried him when he was doing other work. He was unable to put the Banodyne affair out of mind, even to sleep. And lately, he was averaging only 4 or 5 hours of rest a night. He could not tolerate failure. No, in truth, his attitude was much stronger than that. He was obsessed with avoiding failure. His father, having started life dirt poor, and having I'm allergic to the word poor. That's a bad word. That's a curse word. That's why I'm having trouble saying. Let me shut up. I need sleep. His father, having started life dirt poor and having built a successful business, had inculcated in Lem an almost religious belief in the need to achieve, to succeed, and to fulfill all of one's goals. No matter how much success you had, his dad often said, life could pull the rug right out from under you if you weren't diligent. It's even worse for a black man. Lem. With the black man, success is like a tightrope over the Grand Canyon. He's not lying. Yeah, Lem really had a great father. He's up there real high, and it's sweet. But when he makes a mistake, when he fails, it's a mile-long drop into an abyss, because failure means being poor. And in a lot of people's eyes, even in this enlightened age, a poor, miserable, failed black man is no man at all. He's just a nigger. Whoa. That was the only time his father ever used the hated word. Lamb had grown up with the conviction that any success he achieved was merely a precarious toehold on the cliff of life, that he was always in danger of being blown off that cliff by the winds of adversity, and that he dared not to relent in his determination to cling fast and to climb to a wider, safer ledge. He wasn't sleeping well, and his appetite was no good. When he did eat, the meal was inevitably followed by severe acid indigestion. His bridge game had gone to hell because he could not concentrate on the cards. At their weekly get-togethers with Walt and Audrey Gaines, the Johnsons were taking a beating. He knew why he was obsessed with closing every case successfully, but that knowledge was of no help in modifying his obsession. We are what we are, he thought, and maybe the only time we can change what we are is when life throws us such a surprise that it's like hitting a plate glass window with a baseball hat, shattering the grip of the past. So when he stared out at the blazing July day and brooded, worried. So he stared out at the blazing July day and brooded, worried. Back in May, he had surmised that the retriever might have been picked up by someone and given a home. It was, after all, a handsome animal, and if it revealed even a small fraction of its intelligence to anyone, its appeal would be irresistible. It would find sanctuary. Therefore, Lem figured locating the dog would be harder than tracking down the outsider. A week to locate the outsider, he had thought, and perhaps a month to lay hands on the retriever. He had issued bulletins to every animal pound and veterinarian in California, Nevada, and Arizona, urgently requesting assistance in locating the golden retriever. The flyer claimed that the animal had escaped from a medical research lab that was conducting an important cancer experiment. The loss of the dog, the bulletin claimed, would mean the loss of $1 million of research money and countless hours of researchers' time, and might seriously impede the development of a cure that for certain malignancies. Hey, Chopra, I know I said that word wrong. I know I said it wrong. Malignancies. I'm guessing the word malignancies means like specific problems, certain problems, yes. The flyer included a photograph of the dog and the information that on the inside of its left ear, it bore a lap tattoo, the number 33-9. The letter accompanying the flyer requested not only cooperation but oh my gosh, I know how to say this word. Confidentiality. The mailing had been repeated every 7 days since the breakout at Banadine, and a score of NSA agents had been doing nothing but phoning animal pounds and vets in the 3 states To be certain, they remembered the flyer and continued to keep a lookout for a retriever with the tattoo. Meanwhile, the urgent search for the outsider could, with some confidence, be confined to undeveloped territories because it would be reluctant to show itself, and there was no chance that someone would think it was cute enough to take home. Besides, the outsider had been leaving a trail of death that could be followed. Subsequent to the murders at Bordeaux Ridge, east of Yorba Linda, the creature had fled into the unpopulated Chino Hills. From there, it had gone north, crossing into the eastern end of Los Angeles County, where its presence was next pinpointed on June 9 on the outskirts of semi-rural Diamond Bar. The Los Angeles County Animal Control Authority had received numerous and hysterical reports from Diamond Bar residents regarding wild animal attacks on domestic pets. Others called the police, believing the slaughter was the work of a deranged man. In 2 nights, more than a score of Diamond Bar's domestic animals had been torn to pieces, and the condition of the carcasses left no doubt in Lem's mind that the perpetrator was the outsider. Then the trail went ice cold for more than a week, until the morning of June 18, when 2 young campers at the foot of Johnstone Peak on the southern flank of the Los Angeles National Forest reported seeing something they insisted was from another world. They had locked themselves in their van, but the creature had tried repeatedly to get in at them, going so far as to smash a side window with a rock. Fortunately, the pair kept a .32 pistol in the van, and one of them opened fire on their assailant, driving it off. The press treated the campers as a couple of kooks, and on the evening news, the happy talk anchor persons got a lot of mileage out of the story. Lamb believed the young couple. On a map, he traced the thinly populated corridor of land by which the outsider could have gone from Diamond Bar to this area below Johnstone Peak, over the San Jose Hills, through Bonelli Regional Park, between San Dimas and Glendora, then into the wilds. It would have had to cross or go under three freeways that cut through the area. But if it had traveled in the deep of night, when there was little or no traffic, it could have passed unseen. He shifted the 100 men from Marine Intelligence into that portion of the forest, where they continued their search in civilian dress in groups of 3 and 4. He hoped the campers had hit the outsider with at least one shot, but no blood was found at their campsite. He was beginning to worry that the outsider might evade capture for a long time, lying north of the city of Los Angeles. The Angeles National Forest was discouragingly immense, nearly as large as the entire state of Delaware. Cliff Soames said after he had measured the area on the wall map pinned to the bulletin board in Lem's office and had calculated the square miles. Cliff had come from Delaware. He was relatively new to the West and still had a newcomer's amazement at the gigantic scale of everything at this end of the continent. He was also young, with the enthusiasm of youth, and he was almost dangerously optimistic. Cliff's upbringing had been radically different from Lem's, and he did not feel himself to be on a tightrope or at risk of having his life destroyed by just one error, by a single failure. Sometimes Lem envied him. Sometimes Lem envied him. Lem stared at Cliff's scribbled calculations. If it takes refuge in the San Gabriel Mountains, if it takes refuge in the San Gabriel Mountains, feeding on wildlife and content with solitude, venturing out only rarely to vent its rage on the people living along the periphery of the preserve, it might never be found. But remember, Cliff said, it hates the dog more than it hates man. It wants the dog and has the ability to find it. So we think. And it could really tolerate a wild existence. I mean, yeah, it's part savage, but it's also smart. Maybe too smart to be content with the hard scrabble life in that rugged country. Maybe, Lem said. They'll spot it soon, or it will do something to give us another fix on it, Cliff predicted. That was June 18, when they found no trace of the outsider during the next 10 days. The expense of keeping 100 men in the field grew insupportable. On June 29, Lamb finally had to relinquish the Marines that had been put at his disposal and send them back to their bases. Day by day, Cliff was heartened by the lack of developments and was willing to believe that the outsider had suffered a mishap, that he was dead, that they would never hear of it again. Day by day, Lem sank deeper into gloom, certain that he had lost control of the situation and that the outsider would reappear in a most dramatic fashion, making its existence known to the public. Failure. The only bright spot was that the beast was not in Los Angeles County, out of Walt Gaines' jurisdiction. If there were additional victims, Walt might not even learn of them and would not have to be persuaded all over again to remain out of the case. By Thursday, July 15, exactly 2 months after the breakout at Benodyne, almost 1 month after the campers had been terrorized by a supposed extraterrestrial or smaller cousin of Bigfoot, Lem was convinced he would soon have to consider alternate careers. What do you mean? No one had blamed him for the way things had gone. That he was on him to deliver, but it was no worse than the heat he had felt on other big investigations. Actually, some of his superiors viewed the lack of developments in the same favorable light as did Cliff Soames. But in his most pessimistic moments, Lem envisioned himself employed as a uniformed security guard, working the night shift in the warehouse, demoted to the status of a make-believe cop with a rink-a-dink badge, sitting in his office chair, facing the window, staring grimly at the hazy yellow air of the blazing summer day. He said aloud, "Damn it, I've been trained to deal with human criminals. How the hell can I be expected to outthink a fugitive from a nightmare?" A knock sounded at his door. As he swiveled around in his chair, the door opened. Cliff Soames entered in a rush, looking both excited and distraught. "The outsider," he said. "We've got a new fix on it, but 2 people are dead." 20 years ago in Vietnam, Lem's NSA chopper pilot had learned everything worth knowing about putting down and taking off in rugged terrain. Now, remaining in constant radio contact with the Lake County sheriffs, deputies who were on the scene already, he had no difficulty locating sight of the numbers by visual navigation, making use of natural landmarks. I'm going to end it right there. So a quick recap of what I read, of what I just read. And I was right. Einstein is really helping Nora really be herself, you know? And it appears that Lem and his team are making no progress with finding the outsider at first, because the outsider had disappeared for a while, and Lem has started beating himself up because that's the way he was brought up, you know? His father had taught him that as a black man, he had to work twice as hard compared to his peers. So with the expectations and the pressure that he was facing, you know, he started beating himself up because, of course, he always wants the best and always wants to complete any mission that he's assigned to. But with this mission, he was having trouble figuring out where both the retriever and the outsider were, hence why he was beating himself up. He's really hard on he's really hard on himself, which is tough. I mean, I could relate to it because sometimes I'd be hard on myself too and beat myself up, which is never worth it, and it never makes anything better, you know? But it's fair because it's like we expect ourselves to be perfect, which is almost impossible. Instead of wanting to be perfect, how about we aim for it instead of expecting it? Just aim for it, even though you can't really accomplish perfection, but you can work towards it. You can aim for it, even though you can't really be perfect, you know? Only Jesus can. But even Jesus himself, Jesus was only human for a second. He's the only perfect being. Nobody else is compared to Jesus. Nobody's Jesus. But anyway, I went off topic there. But yeah, he was being hard on himself until they found a new lead on the outsider, with the outsider killing 2 more people. But at least now they have a lead on where the outsider is, out in the country, devouring more victims. But yeah, that's a little bit of what I read. I know I didn't include like every info, but I included what stuck in my bololo head. But yeah,